The last few days of June and the first 2 weeks of July, I spent traveling. First, I went to New York City to visit my daughter and her fiance. And then I went to New Hampshire where we had rented a Vrbo and we spent some time with my family. I took some video, not a ton, but I did want to put it together in a vlog. However, I didn't record any voice video while I was away, so I thought it would be good to come in and kind of record a little overview and give you an idea of the things that I did in some of the videos that you're going to be seeing. My journey starts on Friday, June 27th. I got up early so I could drive to Portland and catch a bus that was going to take me all the way to New York City. My daughter met me at the bus stop, and after a quick stop for some lunch, we headed to her apartment where I got to meet her new puppy, Milo, who you're going to meet a little later in this video. On Saturday, we went to the Met and explored that, and then Saturday evening, we took the subway into Queens where we visited a night market. The night market must have been well over 50 vendors, food vendors of all kinds, tons of different cuisines. And it was really fun to sample lots of different foods. We kind of shared a lot of different things and kind of split them up. So that was really kind of a cool and very different experience. On Sunday morning, my daughter and I went to a street bazaar that was set up over on the west side. It was so hot. Oh my goodness, super hot. But it was really, really fun. And again, there was probably 40 or 50 different vendors. So that was kind of really cool. When we got back to the apartment, one of her friends joined us and then hung out with us for most of the rest of the day. We played some games and we had some dinner together and just kind of hung out. Monday was quiet, but then we headed back out on Tuesday and did some shopping, and then we went to the Morgan House Museum, which is the home of JP Morgan. They have some of JP Morgan's private art collection that you can view, but they also have parts of the house that is set up and kind of preserved, and it was really, really cool. The architecture was fantastic, but I think my jaw dropped when I walked into the library. I really felt like I had stepped into Beauty and the Beast or something, because it was pretty much 360 degrees, floor to ceiling books with this massive fireplace right in the center. So it was just amazing and incredible. After the Morgan House, we went and got dinner at my favorite restaurant in New York City, Gyakaku. It's a Japanese barbecue. You order your meats and they bring them to the table, and then you actually barbecue them yourself right at your table and share them family style. It's one of my favorites and something that I look forward to every time I go into the city. After dinner, my daughter and I had tickets to go see Aladdin. I love Broadway. I love plays, but this show is really, really fantastic. It's a high energy show with gorgeous costumes and really, really fantastic choreography. If you get a chance to see it, I encourage you to do that. Wednesday, my daughter and I went to the Tenement Museum, and we got to follow the story of two different immigrant families who lived in that house, in that building in the early 1900s, and got to see what their apartments may have looked like. They were tiny. I can't even imagine living in that kind of an environment, but it really gave us a great understanding, a much better understanding of what that must have been like for those immigrant families who were coming into the country and staying in New York City in those tenements at that time. We had a fantastic tour guide too, which really, really made a big difference. On Thursday, we took the subway out to Brooklyn and we visited two different yarn shops. We went to Woolen and the Brooklyn General Store. They were both really, really great shops. And if you want to see the yarn that I got, then you're going to want to check out episode number 56, because that is where I talk about that. Friday was the 4th of July. We spent the morning at Central Park with my daughter's future in-laws. And then that evening, they joined us at my daughter's apartment and we all had dinner together, which was really a lot of fun. Finally, on Saturday, we rented a car, my daughter and I, we drove back to Maine, and it was a really great and fun experience in the city, but there really is nothing quite like going over the Piscataqua River Bridge when you have been away from home. Less than 24 hours after I got home from New York City, we headed out again. This time we went to Woodstock, New Hampshire, where we had rented a Vrbo to share with some of my family. We had a wonderful week of relaxing and playing games. I actually took even less video in New Hampshire than I took in New York City because frankly, there really wasn't a whole lot different from day to day. Just different knitting and different games. We hung out and it was great. I did manage to get a podcast recorded, and so I took a little video of that footage or of that setup. And we stayed in New Hampshire until Friday when we returned home. I think we all promptly fell asleep and took naps. For all the relaxing we'd done, we probably shouldn't have been as tired as we were, but it really was nice to be home.